Listen, right now you could be only a few clicks away from experiencing something amazing, something that has changed thousands of lives all over the world. I'm talking about a high consciousness field similar to those at pilgrimage sites and sacred places. It's where people go to heal, to connect, and to become the best possible version of themselves. With FLFE, you can bring such a high consciousness field into your home right now. It's a spiritual quantum technology based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Better sleep, more energy, greater well-being, improved finances, electrosmog mitigation. These are only some of the things people on the FLFE service are experiencing. Try it now for 15 days completely free of charge, no credit card needed. Just click on a link down below to start your free, no strings attached FLFE trial right now. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It is John Nolan here, and it's Thursday, May 30th, 2024. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's a good thing. As many of you know, the World Health Assembly is taking place right now in Geneva, Switzerland. We've been reporting on this. We've been talking about this. The time has come. It is May and June of 2024, believe it or not. And you remember we talked about amendments to the international health regulations. We talked about a new pandemic treaty. And today we're bringing on the expert on the subject. He's dedicated the past years of his life to bringing this to the awareness of the people of the world. And he's done an amazing job. James Roguski, thank you so much for joining us again today, brother.
Well, thanks for having me on again. You've been great in, getting this word out to the people who pay attention to what you present. And so let me dive right into it because time is of the essence. They are meeting in Geneva until Saturday, June 1st. At least that's what they have on the schedule. And as of the moment that we're talking about this right now, they have on one level failed because they were supposed to have a final version of the amendments 4 months ago, and they obviously ignored that deadline. And their own rules say that all documents are supposed to be presented to the Assembly 6 weeks in advance. And at this moment, they're busy, burning the midnight oil trying to reach an agreement. It appears that they're trying to reach an agreement on the amendments to the international health regulations to be adopted at this assembly. We shall see if they try to push that through in clear violation of their own rules. It seems like they have, to a certain degree, realized that they're not going to reach an agreement on the new pandemic treaty or pandemic agreement or framework convention, whatever they want to call it. And they're likely to call for either a special session before the end of the year and continue the negotiations. They're looking for authorization, I guess, to continue those negotiations. So it's a nail biter. I don't mean to tease. It's not a teaser, on purpose, but pay attention and get the information from the source. And I don't mean me. I mean, there has been so much misinformation out there. It seems like people who are talking about these documents have not actually read them. And the disparity between what people think is in these documents and what is actually being negotiated, at this point, quite frankly, no one really knows because they haven't finished negotiating. So on Friday, the 31st, or Saturday, June the 1st, if they do come out and say, well, look, here's this, that, or the other document, take the time to actually look through them. Some of the stuff that's in there is very concerning. And let me see if I could summarize it. And again, it's all subject to change.
You
right?
took the words out of my mouth, James. That would be my next question. Yes, please.
Okay. So for the things that most people are concerned about, mask mandates, jab mandates, lockdowns, all of the sort of insanity that we dealt with where people tried to limit your freedom to live your life. Um, the people and the local tyrants who tried to do those things or successfully did those things over the last 4.5 years, they didn't need any amendments to the international health regulations, and they didn't need no stinking pandemic treaty to attempt to abuse your rights and freedoms over the past 4.5 years. So, all of those issues are still local, whether it's your school board or your city council or your county health commissioner or your state, government or your nation for that matter. uh, those issues are still very local. Now, a lot of people have been misinterpreting, misrepresenting what's going on with the WHO. If you read the latest version of the treaty slash agreement or whatever they want to call it, Article 24.2 in the treaty says very clearly that nothing in the treaty has anything to do with vaccine mandates or lockdowns or travel restrictions or whatever. The treaty is primarily a business deal. It's a trade agreement that falls under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 of the US Constitution. Our states did give the federal government authority to regulate international commerce. Now, any treaty should go through the Senate, but I got news for you. There's theoretical, what should be, and realistic, what has been. Well over 10,000 agreements, have been signed off by just some executive. And so the idea that an agreement must go through the Senate, I theoretically, absolutely 100% agree, but that's not the reality of the world that we've been living in for the last century. And so what's in the amendments is incredibly ridiculous because since 2005, Article 31 in the amendments, if a person were to travel outside the United States or someone was trying to travel to the United States, now I'm not talking about walking across the southern border, that's another issue. What I'm talking about is if you're trying to travel legitimately, Article 31 says that the nation to where you might be traveling can compel travelers, that's the word they use, to get a medical examination, prophylaxis, or whatever they call vaccines these days. And they would have the right to isolate and quarantine people. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's a complete and total, violation of just fundamental human rights. But that's been part of the IHR since 2005. Now, to be clear, that's not the WHO mandating anything. That's all of the nations having an agreement, a multilateral agreement since 2005, saying that they can do that to people. It's actually an expression of national sovereignty, using that national sovereignty to bludgeon individuals who are trying to lawfully travel. And so there's been an enormous amount of misinformation about what is in these documents. The treaty is primarily an attempt by nations around the world to have a big pool of money, whether it's in one fund or multiple funds, be redirected to to build out big pharma in nations who really can't afford to do what they would like to do, which is go looking for pathogens, bring them into a WHO coordinated laboratory network, manipulate them, identify the genetic sequence, and that genetic sequence is viewed as a sovereign biological resource. So in Article 3, Section 1, or Paragraph 1 of the treaty, it talks about sovereignty. And in this sense, sovereignty is that the nation who finds a pathogen is saying, well, we're not going to share it with you unless the big pharma shares some of the profits. And so what we're dealing
Doesn't
with here
but James, doesn't that
is
incentivize the modification, gain of function research of it creates an industry where this is now incentivized.
this is exactly the point. Under the guise of sovereign biological resources. Now, that's not an attack on national sovereignty. Everybody's barking up the wrong tree. It's an expression of national sovereignty for profit. And it all kind of stems because when South Africa and Botswana identified Omicron and they handed over the genetic sequence, they watched Pfizer and Moderna put that into the boosters and make a couple of more $1 billion. And in their original amendments, going back a year and a half, in my own way of talking about it, they said, well, we're not stupid, we're not doing that again. We're not going to give you any pathogens unless you share the benefits. So the sticking point is the pathogen access and benefit sharing system. So it looks like what they're going to try to do is extend the negotiations till the end of 2024 sometime, maybe longer. The United States said, oh, we might need 2 years to work this one out. We shall see what they do. I wish I had, a concrete answer. All I can give you at this moment in time is their schedule is that the assembly is scheduled to end on June the 1st, and we shall see what they decide. I haven't heard any fat lady sing recently, so I don't think it's over quite yet. And even when they bang the gavel and they end it, it looks like it's going to extend, and they're going to continue to try to finish the negotiations that they've so far failed to accomplish.
James, unfortunately or coincidentally, we're having this huge circus trial in New York right now with Trump,
Mm,
which unfortunately coincidentally takes away a lot of media attention,
mhm.
whereas we could have otherwise maybe focused it on Geneva, put more pressure on it. But do you think that the work that you have done, and I want to applaud you for that, you've literally dedicated your life for the last years to this subject, and nobody, I mean, this is just such an intense body of work that you have created on your Substack and throughout all your media appearances. Do you think that this work and sort of the alternative media bonding over this has created enough pressure that there's just enough dissent that this has not gone through? Do you think it has anything to do with that?
I honestly don't. I don't think that anything that I've done has had an influence on the evil on one side and the evil on the other who are having difficulty reaching an agreement to divvy up this poisonous pie. Um, no one in the room has admitted that the diagnostic tests are fraudulent. The drugs like midazolam or remdesivir don't really help anybody, and they're not even remotely considering that the jabs have harmed and killed thousands if not millions of people. They're intent on reaching an agreement to basically steal billions of dollars to redirect them into the pharmaceutical industry around the world. I will say that there is a likelihood that people's prayers to hold back this negotiations have had an impact because they obviously failed to do what they wanted to do. But the problem has been the deception and the lack of clarity. Um, Many people have said many things about what's going on, and I can't, pick up an article and read through it without going, "Oh my goodness, this person has been deceived." They're trying with all their heart to, raise awareness, and what I will say is that we have raised people's attention, but unless you have actually read the documents and you are crystal clear on, like, local issues have to be dealt with locally. The mandates, the jabs, the masks, the lockdowns, it's got nothing to do with the WHO. The amendments are a concern for people who travel internationally, and the treaty is a money deal that has got nothing to do with what most people have been attributing to it. So the deception I mean, the great deceiver has made everybody's head all tangled up in knots. I encourage people, if you've never heard about any of this, you might be better off. Let's see what happens when the dust settles after June the 1st, and maybe this event comes to its conclusion. Maybe they're going to extend the negotiations. Be very careful. Don't listen to a word I have to say. Take it as a clue that you should get involved and learn what's going on. But unless you've actually read the documents for yourself, realize that once the story gets told and told and told and told, it gets lost in translation. And so step number one is to get as clear as you possibly can on what is actually maybe been decided or been projected to be worked on going into the future. Because if you're praying for the wrong thing, that's not necessarily helping. And so if you're clear on what it is you want, by all means, pray for the result that you want, but don't pray for the wrong thing. Don't work towards the wrong um, uh, goal, because what has been happening is that the whole, the sands are shifting. These are negotiations. They've been changing. No one at this moment in time, other than the supreme being, knows what might be coming down the pike this weekend. Take the time to get truly informed and be precise on what it is you say about what the WHO is doing. I venture to guess that if you do that, you're going to be very surprised that what is in these documents is not what you've been led to believe is actually in them.
The devil is in the detail.
And the angels bring the awareness of the answers. And so don't forget that part.
I agree 100%. James, here's my take, and you give me yours as sort of a question here. I think the wisest thing for the 194 member states to do is to walk away from the WHO and dissolve this whole operation. That's the wisest thing to do, and it can only be driven by the people. What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly, and this battle will be over when we wake up one morning and we hear that is exactly what has happened. Absolutely.
So that would be my overarching prayer here, is that the people recognize this wisdom. James, where can people find your work? You are the always on the pulse of things. You summarize things, but you also always provide links to the document so people can read it in the exact language as it was released by the WHO. Where can people find your work and keep up with you?
It's pretty easy to remember. It's just my name, jamesroguski.substack.com, JamesRoguski.substack.com. And everyone's welcome to give me a phone call, 310-619-3055. If you have any questions, I'll do what I can to help answer them. Um, I have every faith that we can all work together to make the world a better place. But you can't do it from a place of being unaware of what the opposition is doing. And even with awareness, you cannot fall back and say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do, and ignore it. That is the definition of ignorance. So everyone can do whatever they have the capability of doing. And if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to me. I'll do everything I can to help.
This is the truth, my friends. This is exactly what I did a couple of years ago when I first reached out to James Roguski. I called him, we texted, we jumped on, and he's been very quick to respond ever since. I'm just amazed. I wanted to end or finalize this conversation, James, by saying something about your work, which we've talked about in the past few days on this channel. Something called excellence is when you have competence and commit to becoming better at what you're already really good at, when you have accountability and say you're going to do what you said you will do, and do it. And if you have a vision that you are in service of something that's bigger than yourself, that is excellence. And you, my friend, you exude excellence in this work. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you once again for that, Mr. James Roguski.
Well, thank you, and right back at you.
Inspired Tribe, you two are excellent in helping us spreading the information, the awareness, in researching and sharing with us what you have found and sharing this with others. So I encourage you, please share this interview with your friends and family. Go in the description of this live stream. You will find the link to James Roguski's Substack. Read up, share, and let's make everybody aware right now, because this is the moment. They're meeting, and we have to spread this like wildfire. All right. Thank you again, James and Inspire Tribe. You know we love you. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon.